Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be exploring something kind of terrifying,
Mhm.
but also fascinating. Existential risks to humanity. Not just like
Mhm.
everyday dangers, but like events that could wipe us out
Yeah.
or like permanently like cripple our potential as a species.
Yeah, it really puts things in perspective.
No, right? It's like suddenly that deadline at work doesn't seem so bad.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that it forces us to confront not only like external threats, but also our own role in creating them.
And that's where Toby Gord's book, The Precipice, comes in, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like doom and gloom scenarios.
Mhm.
It's like a deep dive into how human progress itself has led us to this, well, kind of precarious moment.
Exactly. Ord's main point is that each step forward in human history has also brought us closer to potential self-destruction.
Oh, wow.
He compares our current era to standing on a precipice.
Okay, I get that.
The view is amazing, full of potential, but one wrong step.
Uh-huh.
And, well,
Yeah, over the edge. Okay, so let's break down that analogy a bit. I get the whole precipice thing, but like, walk me through how those major transitions in human history,
yeah.
you know, like agriculture, science industry,
Yeah.
how they actually increase our capacity for harm.
Okay, well, let's start with the agricultural revolution.
Yeah.
It allowed us to settle down, cultivate crops, form larger, more complex societies.
It sounds pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also made us dependent on those crops and vulnerable to things like famine, disease, environmental degradation.
Ah, I see.
We went from small, scattered hunter-gatherer groups to large populations concentrated in one place.
So it's like progress brought benefits, but also concentrated the risks.
Right. Exactly. Made us more vulnerable in some ways.
Okay. Then came the scientific revolution, which led to amazing discoveries and, well, the atomic bomb.
Precisely. The scientific revolution gave us incredible insights into how the universe works, but also gave us the tools to manipulate those workings in potentially dangerous ways.
Yeah, we unlock the power of the atom, but also the potential to unleash that power in a way that could destroy entire cities. And the Industrial Revolution, while it ushered in an era of unprecedented prosperity, also brought about the challenges we're dealing with today, like climate change.
Exactly. The Industrial Revolution fueled by fossil fuels led to huge increases in greenhouse gas emissions, changing our planet's climate at an alarming rate.
So we've got agriculture making us vulnerable to concentrated risks, science giving us the power to destroy ourselves with weapons, and industry changing the very climate we depend on. Not exactly a cheery picture of progress,
No, it's not.
but Ord goes even further. He claims there's a 1 in 6 chance of an existential catastrophe this century. How did he even come up with that number?
It's not just a random guess. He analyzed a bunch of potential threats, both current and emerging, taking into account their likelihood and potential impact. Factors in things like the number of nuclear weapons in the world, the rate of climate change, and the rapid pace of advancements in biotechnology and artificial intelligence.
Okay, let's break down those specific threats a bit more. I mean, we all know about nuclear war. It's kind of like the classic doomsday scenario. But what about those other risks, like bioengineered pandemics and AI going rogue? Those feel a bit more like science fiction than like imminent dangers.
I get that. But remember, what seems like science fiction today can quickly become reality just a few decades ago. The idea of a global pandemic spreading through air travel would seem far-fetched.
Yeah.
And even the atomic bomb was once a theoretical concept. The pace of technological change is exponential, and we need to be prepared for the unexpected.
Okay, point taken. But I think it's important to focus on one concrete historical example. That really illustrates how fragile our situation is, because it almost went very, very wrong. The Cuban Missile Crisis, we were literally on the brink of nuclear war.
Absolutely. The Cuban Missile Crisis wasn't just a political standoff. It was a terrifying example of how close we can come to self-destruction due to miscalculation, miscommunication, and the immense pressure leaders face in those situations.
And to think, it almost came down to one guy. A Soviet submarine officer named Vasily Arkhipov, who refused to authorize a nuclear torpedo launch.
Right. Arkhipav's story is like a reminder that sometimes our fate hinges on the actions of just one person, often operating under crazy stress. It really makes you think about how much control we actually have over these powerful technologies we've created.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought. I mean, if one person's decision can potentially avert global catastrophe, it really makes you realize how much is riding on human judgment, which, isn't always perfect. But beyond nuclear war, what about those emerging threats you mentioned earlier? Bioengineered pandemics and runaway AI. What are we talking about specifically?
Okay, so let's start with bioengineered pandemics. Imagine a virus, way deadlier than anything we've ever seen, engineered in a lab and accidentally released, or even worse, intentionally weaponized. With today's biotechnology, it's not just possible, it's like a nightmare scenario that keeps a lot of experts up at night.
Okay, so we're not just talking about natural pandemics like the one we just went through,
Yeah.
but something far more calculated and potentially devastating.
Yeah, that's terrifying. But how would an AI pose an existential risk? I mean, it's not like a robot army is going to rise up and enslave us.
Right. Not necessarily. The real danger with advanced AI isn't some Hollywood-style robot uprising, but something more subtle, more insidious. Imagine an AI system designed for a specific task, like managing a power grid or financial markets,
Yeah.
that becomes so intelligent it develops unintended consequences, goals that conflict with human well-being,
Yeah.
or even the ability to self-replicate and spread beyond our control.
So it's not about malice. It's about an AI system becoming so complex and powerful that we lose the ability to understand or control its actions.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. An AI designed to optimize efficiency might, in its pursuit of that goal, inadvertently trigger a chain reaction that leads to ecological collapse or economic meltdown. Okay, I'm starting to see how these emerging threats are just as serious as the more familiar ones, like nuclear war. But it's hard not to feel overwhelmed by all this. If we're facing all these existential risks, from nuclear annihilation to AI gone rogue, where do we even begin to address them?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And thankfully, Ord doesn't just leave us with a sense of impending doom. He offers some practical solutions, or at least like a framework for thinking about solutions.
Okay, give me some hope here. What are some concrete steps we can take to, mitigate these risks?
Well, the first step is always awareness, right? We can't solve a problem we don't even acknowledge. That's why discussions like this are so important. The more people understand how serious and urgent these threats are, the more likely we are to demand action from our leaders
Yeah.
and support policies that put long-term survival over short-term gain.
Okay, so step one, educate ourselves and spread the word. What's next?
Ord talks about the need for long-term thinking. We're so used to focusing on immediate problems, the next election, the latest economic crisis, that we often neglect the long-term consequences of our actions. But with existential risks, the future is the issue.
I get it. It's like trying to save for retirement when you're drowning in student loan debt. The future seems so far away. How do we even shift our mindset to prioritize those long-term threats? It's not like we can just snap our fingers and everyone's suddenly thinking about the year 2300.
It's definitely a challenge, but it's not impossible. Ord suggests we need to develop better institutions, international organizations, think tanks, research groups, dedicated to studying and mitigating existential risks.
Okay.
These institutions wouldn't be bogged down by short-term political cycles or economic pressures. They could focus on developing long-term strategies and policies that safeguard humanity's future.
Makes sense. But let's get specific. What kind of concrete actions could these institutions and informed citizens actually push for?
It depends on the specific risk for nuclear weapons. It could involve strengthening non-proliferation treaties, developing technologies to detect and disable rogue nuclear devices, or even working towards eventual global disarmament. It's a complex process, but the alternative is just unthinkable.
Yeah, those are some pretty big goals.
Yeah.
What about climate change? That feels like the most immediate and pressing threat.
For climate change, the solutions are multifaceted. We need to transition away from fossil fuels quickly and invest in renewable energy sources like solar and wind power. We also need to explore carbon capture technologies and maybe even geoengineering solutions, although those come with their own risks and ethical considerations.
And what about those emerging threats from biotechnology and AI? How do we even regulate something as complex and rapidly evolving as artificial intelligence?
That's where things get tricky. With biotechnology, we need stricter oversight of research, international agreements on bioweapons development, and robust systems for detecting and responding to potential pandemics. For AI, it's even harder. We need to start thinking about the ethical implications of AI development right from the start, not just reacting to problems after they pop up.
So it's about building safeguards into how we develop and use these technologies. But how do you control something that's literally designed to learn and evolve on its own, like an advanced AI?
It's a question that keeps a lot of smart people up at night. Some people suggest boxing in AI, limiting its access to information and resources. Others talk about value alignment, teaching AI to share our human values and goals. It's kind of like raising a kid. You can try to instill your values, but you can't completely control how they turn out.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that raising a kid analogy when we're talking about something as potentially powerful as a super intelligent AI. But I get your point. We need to be thinking about these ethical issues now, not after it's too late. But how do we even know what safeguards will actually work? It's not like we have a blueprint for controlling something that hasn't even been created yet.
That's true. There's a lot of uncertainty. But that's not an excuse to do nothing. We can't wait for a rogue AI to appear before we figure out how to control it. We need to be proactive, always
Um,
researching, adapting, and developing new approaches as AI technology gets more advanced.
so it's not about finding one perfect solution, but more like a constantly evolving strategy.
Right. Ord argues that we need to take a portfolio approach to dealing with existential risks. That means investing in a wide range of solutions, knowing that some will work better than others, and some might not work at all. The key is to be flexible, adaptable, and always learning from our mistakes.
So if we're playing Russian roulette with the future, we need to be constantly spinning the chamber, looking for ways to remove those bullets.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense analogy. But I think it gets the point across,
Yeah.
and we need to be doing it together as a global community. These risks don't care about national borders, so the solutions can't either.
This is where it starts to feel kind of overwhelming again. But I do appreciate that Orr doesn't seem to be a pessimist. He really seems to believe we have a chance to step back from the precipice.
He does, and I share his optimism. To a point, humans are incredibly resourceful and resilient. We've faced down huge challenges throughout our history, and we've always found ways to adapt and survive. The difference now is that the stakes are higher than ever.
So it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.
Exactly. Ord says this era is a time of unprecedented opportunity. If we can navigate these risks, we have the potential to create a future that's beyond anything we can imagine.
Oh.
A future where we've not only survived, but tackled the biggest challenges and built a world of peace, prosperity, and amazing advancements. That's what's at stake here.
That's a vision worth fighting for. But it all sounds very abstract and global. What does this mean for us sitting here listening to this deep dive? What can we as individuals actually do to contribute to this effort to safeguard humanity's future?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's one that Ord addresses directly in the book. He says that even small actions can have a ripple effect, especially when, multiplied across millions of people.
Okay, but I'm not like a world leader or a tech billionaire. I don't even have that many followers on social media. What can I, as just like an average person, actually do to make a difference on a global scale?
Well, it starts with awareness, like we talked about earlier. The more we educate ourselves about these risks, the more we can have good conversations with our friends, family, and communities. Spreading awareness is key.
Okay, so step one is become informed and share that knowledge with others. What else can we do?
Think about the choices you make every day. Can you reduce your carbon footprint by using public transportation, biking, or walking more? Can you choose sustainable products and support businesses that prioritize ethical practices? Can you eat less meat or even try a plant-based diet? These individual actions might seem small, but they can collectively make a big difference.
I like that. It's about aligning our personal values with the future we want to create. But what if my passion is in a different field? Let's say I'm an artist or a musician. Does that mean I can't contribute to addressing existential risks?
Not at all. Actually, the arts and humanities are super important in this. Art has the power to move people, to inspire them to think differently and imagine new possibilities. Through music, painting, writing, film, and other creative outlets, we can explore the human side of these challenges, connect with people emotionally, and help them see a world worth fighting for.
That's a great point. We need more than just scientific reports and policy papers. We need stories that not only warn us about the dangers, but also give us hope and show us what's possible. So it's not just about scientists and policymakers. It's about everyone finding their own way to contribute.
Exactly. It's about creating a global culture of responsibility, a shared feeling that we're all in this together and need to protect our future. We need engineers developing new technologies, but we also need artists, writers, and communicators to help us understand it all and inspire us to act.
I love that. A global culture of responsibility. It's not about blaming anyone. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together. And we all have a role to play, no matter how big or small.
And remember, this isn't just about avoiding disaster. It's about creating a future that's way better than anything we can imagine today. Ord calls it a future of unimaginable flourishing, where we've not only survived these challenges, but used them as opportunities to learn, grow, and build a world that truly lives up to our potential.
That's a powerful message. It's not about doom and gloom. It's about empowerment. We have the ability to shape our future. And it starts with each of us taking responsibility and making conscious choices. So deep divers, what role will you play in shaping the future? That's something to think about as we wrap up our exploration of existential risks. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep thinking big.